Hi, everyone. I'm Tristi Rodriguez. I'm joined here by Dr. Marc Safran from Stanford Medicine. Marc, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
San Francisco Giants reliever Randy Rodriguez. He's unfortunately scheduled to undergo Tommy John surgery on his right elbow to repair an elbow sprain. So the first question I want to ask you is, so the Giants placed him on the 15-day injured list in late August, and then he sought out multiple options, as most players do, about the injury, and he had hoped to avoid surgery before doctors made the recommendation to move forward with the procedure. So just my question to you is, what goes into that decision or that recommendation from a doctor to either go forward with the procedure or to not?
Well, so particularly for the sprain of the ligament that's involved here, it's the ulnar collateral ligament of the elbow, the inner elbow ligament. And to undergo the surgery, the Tommy John surgery, if you will, is a long recovery and rehabilitation. It takes a year on average, sometimes a year and a half to be able to get back to throw. So you don't undertake that lightly. And unfortunately, what happens is that ligament over time gets gradually stretched out. So even high schoolers, college players, minor league players all have some damage to that ligament. If they're a high level pitcher, they're going to have some damage to that ligament. And so there's really no objective measure of saying, today you're fine, and oh, the MRI looks like this or the exam looks like that. Oh, you absolutely can't pitch. So it's kind of shades of gray. And so everybody's a little bit different. And some people are more loose jointed than others. That ligament's a little bit looser than others. In a normal situation, it's almost always looser. When I test that ligament in a professional player, it's almost always looser on their throwing side than their non-throwing side, even though they may be asymptomatic. So it's really hard there's no objective measure that determines, oh yes, he definitely now needs surgery. I mean, he's been dealing with some as do most ball players, will complain of some elbow soreness for a long period of time. And I mean, he's had issues, I think, that date back even to last season. And I think, it comes down to a point where they just finally say, okay, well, we've tried all the non-operative things that we would normally try: rest, strengthening, rehabilitation, maybe some injections. And if that doesn't work and you still can't get back to throwing the way you want to throw, then it's time to go ahead and do the surgery. So unfortunately, it's not all black and white where you can sit there and say, yes, now it definitely needs or not. It's really based on how his elbow responds to the rest and rehabilitation.
Okay, and when people hear the term Tommy John surgery, I think the initial reaction, right, is scared, worried, concerned. Oh, he's not going to come back the same. He's not going to pitch the same. In your experience, what are maybe, if you've experienced anything, the positives, I guess, of undergoing the surgery? Have you, seen players and pitchers specifically come back and still either excel or, return to the dominant force that they were before?
That injury was a career-ending injury in the 70s. But, since the Tommy John operation, I think it's not as career-ending anymore because of the Tommy John operation. And a lot of players do get back at a very high rate of players getting back. The majority do get back. And then there's even some people who feel that they come back even stronger because their elbow is tighter than maybe it was in the year or two before the ligament had finally given and they weren't able to throw. So there's kind of this thought that some people say, oh, well, I can throw a couple miles an hour faster after the surgery than before. And I think that's been a little bit debunked. I don't think that, the majority of people do gain much velocity on the ball, but players can get back. And in fact, many can get back, not just the velocity, but even their spin rates can get back. And so that they can still have a good action on the ball, if you will. So it's again, not the death sentence, if you will, of if you have that injury anymore. There's so many people in the major leagues that have had that ligament reconstructed and are pitching at the major league level and very effectively.
Well, it's great news for Randy and Giants, of course. And just along those lines, what kinds of things, we can talk a little bit about his rehab. We know it's a lengthy road to recovery, right? Just like, what's that process kind of like before he's able to take the mound again?
Yeah, so it's a very long and drawn out process. It's first letting the wounds heal. It's working on getting his range of motion back to the elbow. Then it's working on the elbow and wrist muscles and get them stronger. And it takes several months before we even let them start to do a throwing program where they go for light toss at 30 feet with a limited number of throws and just kind of arcing the ball. And so it's a long thing that has to be drawn out to where they start to throw more throws at a longer distance and at a flatter rate before they actually start to try to let the the ball go, if you will. And sometimes it's not uncommon to get some elbow soreness during that process. And so we want to be very conservative and not push them back too fast, because the graft undergoes a breakdown process and a build back process that can take, and that's part of what takes so long and why it takes a year and a half to get back.